So I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Professor David Anderson, and together with my colleague, Marina Milner-Bolotin, we are professors in the Faculty of Education in the Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy. And it's our great pleasure today to introduce you all to the Master of Education Science Education program, which is delivered online. So let me turn to my colleague, Marina, just to say a few formal words of greeting.
I'm always very excited to see teachers come to the sessions, and I hope some of you will decide to join us because it's an opportunity to continue learning. And I think this pandemic has shown all of us how important it is to keep abreast of what's going on. And I have to tell you that I've learned, maybe David, if you feel like that, from the students in our cohort a lot, because we usually have very motivated, smart people who are ready to share. And I can tell you that from the past 2 cohorts that we had in science education. And David, how many cohorts did you have you had in museum education? 7?
It's coming up on our 8.
8, yeah. So from our experience, it's such a positive experience to learn with colleagues, motivated colleagues online. And I can only say good things. I'm proud of what we have done with these cohorts.
So let me formally commence proceedings today and just acknowledge that we're coming to you from UBC Campus Vancouver, which is the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam people, for which we live and work on this land here, which is on the slide in front of you. And I know you all are coming in from many different parts of the country and maybe even the world today. So I'd just like to say a sincere welcome to you all. So today's agenda, basically we're going to talk for a little over an hour. It depends on the Q&A that follows, but just a brief introduction from Marina and I, who are the coordinators of the program, and a background to the program, how we come to develop this program and how we've been running it the last number of years. I'll talk to you a bit about the program schedule, the kinds of courses that are offered, and how they're offered and how you access them, and a little bit about the online learning experience. Then we're going to hear from 2 current students who are in the program. So this is SEC3, it stands for Science Ed with the D missing, 3. So it's the 3rd intake of the online program. And we're going to hear from some current students to give you their first-hand perspective as students who are currently in the program and how it's benefiting them professionally and their experiences. And then we're going to hear from our program assistant, Yvette Kharoubeh, who's going to give you the all-important information about application and admission and how to prepare your applications for this particular program, and then have Q&A. So just a quick program summary here. So this program, SEC3, Master of Education and Science Education, will commence in September 2022. It's a 2-year, 1-term part-time professional program, which means that it's designed for practicing teachers and community educators, or those people wanting to seek further professional development as educators in science education. It's delivered primarily online, although there is the opportunity, if you wish, to take some electives which could be delivered in a face-to-face modality, or you could choose to do it 100% online. So there's some flexibility in there. The application deadline, very important to note here, is March the 20th, 2022. So you do have time to prepare your very excellent applications, and I'd encourage you to take a bit of time. It does take time to get the documents together for submission and to prepare the application. So you've got good advanced lead time to be able to prepare this. So it's open to all disciplines. I was delighted to hear from Alison a moment ago, who was is a math educator, but interested in science education. So it's open to everybody, math, science, technology, engineering, all of the STEM disciplines. But our primary focus in this degree program is on science education. So we have a very interesting and long history of science education at the graduate level at UBC. In fact, it's been going on here for more than 30 years. So we've had on our books as a university a Master of Science Education for 30 years plus. But of course, the advent of online programs is something a little bit more recent. And so the online version of this program has only had 2 other iterations. So as I said, this is SEC3. It's our third intake. And I guess we came to this conclusion that we needed to put this online prior to the pandemic, I might add. So we had some foresight, I guess, retrospectively, was because we were very much convicted by the fact that we were delivering our program here at UBC Vancouver primarily to people who are just in the Lower Mainland, and not even just the Lower Mainland, the Vancouver regional area. And so, you know very well, people who live in the Lower Mainland, it's very, very difficult to get to the UBC campus as a full-time teacher, and probably as mums and dads and every other thing you've got in your life to make it out to UBC. And so the logic of making our program more accessible to attract the best students, regardless of their location, became a priority for us. And I think also in the last number of years, there's been a changing emphasis in people's expectations for professional development, rather than go to the place where the professional development is being administered. There's much more removed to make the professional development more accessible via online modalities. And so we're very, very happy that we did this, because when we look at the last two cohorts, we've had probably 70% of our students in the program come from rural areas. So our justification and our desire to meet the needs of accessibility to teachers across the province, and indeed further, has been well justified by the fact that we're attracting teachers from rural areas. And I think probably the last point is that when we first did this back 5 years ago or so, there were almost no online science education programs available. Of course, they're coming online now, and more so with the pandemic issue forcing tertiary education to think more about online programs. But we were sort of somewhat of a pioneer when we first started in terms of the online science education master's program. So we're very, very happy about the trajectory that it's taken and how it's going along. And of course, our next intake begins next year, hoping you're a part of it.
Just a sec, David,
go ahead,
may I please say two things? Could you please go back? I just don't want what David said to get lost. 2 points you've made, I want to emphasize. The first one, it's not a fast program that was developed as a remote teaching. You know, we couldn't teach face-to-face, so let's do online. It was developed deliberately for people who are working teachers. And even in Vancouver, it's hard to get to UBC if you work in Surrey or Delta or other location. So we were deliberately thinking of online for its flexibility. The second thing is that when you think of Brandon, Manitoba or Vancouver Island, they're equally far in terms of getting to class. Nobody is going to come from Vancouver Island to be here at 4:30 if they teach till 3 p.m. So in a way, even people who are geographically close, in practice, they're very far. So that was the philosophy. The other thing that I wanted to say, all of us are educational researchers. So we do research in science education and museum education and technology education. So what we felt that using this platform, we can bridge the research and practice for our teachers. So in a way, the whole program was designed very deliberately and slowly. We didn't do it haphazardly. I think it took us 2.5 years or 2 years to make it approved and etc. The final thing with what David was saying is that you will find a lot of graduate programs that are online now, and they just made, quickly put some courses together. I think our idea was to make a very coherent program where all instructors are close colleagues and work together. So we all talk to each other and we know what everybody else is teaching. So it's not just a salad of let's put this course, let's put that course. I think that's the strength, that we were very deliberate what courses to put, how to design them, how to change them. So we are a group of people working together on this program. And excellent. Somebody asked, yes, you will all have the link to the recording.
Thanks, Marina. That's very important to mention that. Let's see. Okay, next slide.
The next one.
Yeah, so we are a suite of programs. So we do have other programs that are related to the field of STEM education through our department, and they include the Master of mathematics education, which was first started in September 2022, and then the Master of Media and Technology Studies education, which started this year, in fact. And so we have been progressively since 2018 been developing our online programs prior to the pandemic. So all of this was started prior to the pandemic. And as I said, it was very timely that it all sort of came together. And as Marina mentioned, it wasn't done in an emergency response. It was done in a very planned way. So we have these 3 STEM programs. So ST, small e, and we don't have an engineering one per se out there. But we work together very closely because although these are 3 separate degree programs that are offered at UBC, they're interrelated, of course, and interrelated in the sense that there are some courses that you may look at in these other programs and think, oh, that would be nice. I would really like to take that math education course or that media technology studies course. And so you have the opportunity to work with our sister programs, if you so desire, to pick up some courses related. You would end up, of course, with a Master of Science education at the conclusion of this program. I just wanted to mention that we do have other programs which are related. Okay, who is this program for? It's ideal for people who want to make a difference in teacher education and in teaching in general. And so it's great for people who work in all fields of education in the formal world, so elementary, second, post-secondary levels, middle school. Also, we have people from industry and research institutions, government, private sector bodies, museums, outdoor settings. Anybody who is interested in science education can participate in this program. And we've had some very, very interesting students in the program to date. So, for example, one of our students who has just graduated recently was working in correctional centres as a science educator. So very interesting, the kinds of people that the program draws. Primarily, I would say that it's people who are working in the K-12 system, so in schools, elementary, secondary, and middle. But we do have some other people coming in from very interesting areas which really complement the makeup of the cohort. And I think that's a real strength that I'd like to emphasize, is that we do, as a student body who come through the program, come from different backgrounds and different areas. And to have that mix really adds a tremendous strength. So probably very rarely do you as secondary school teachers get to interact with elementary school teachers and vice versa. But in this program, you have that opportunity to understand the nature of education, science education in particular, from many different kinds of perspectives, and have interactions with your colleagues, which really do create a very wonderful mix that expands your perspective of the nature of science education, professionally speaking. Anything
Just
there,
a
Marina?
moment, David. Yeah, I wanted to add, we are not worried about not having enough applicants. So what we do when people apply, we also have to make sure that the person will benefit from the program. So if we see somebody who is a grade 1 teacher and might not have enough science background, it's not the best program for them. So we are interested in having teachers in the program or educators who do have science background and interest in science. If you're an elementary teacher who is interested in science and is interested in improving your science ability to teach science, you're very welcome. But we are going to make sure, try to make sure that everybody has enough science background that you feel that you can engage at a meaningful level.
Great.
That's what yes.
So I've just mentioned there that we bring together a wide diversity of educators here. And so we're not a homogenous group or a diverse group, and that really adds to our strength. Do you want to say something about the program philosophy, Marina?
Before that, David, could you please go back? I'm slow today. Yes. If you look at the second part, and that's, I think, what distinguishes our program from many others. If you look at David's background, I forgot to put mine. This summer, David and I were co-chairs of the International STEM in Education Conference. We were both in it. And I would say from our 2 cohorts, probably about 30 people, maybe I'm a little wrong, joined the conference. For many teachers who were participating, it was their first big international conference that they could participate in. So when we say we're interested in research. We're not just saying it for a check mark, you know, we are very serious about that. We want our students to be more comfortable with understanding educational literature, with being active participants in what is happening, and not being afraid to attend an international conference, present, ask questions, and participate as equal in this community. So I'm very, very proud of that.
Share a little bit about the program philosophy, Marina.
So as I said before, when we were thinking about it, we realized that right now and I work with a lot of teacher candidates, with future physics teachers, a lot of them think that research somewhere is at UBC or some other university, and practice is different. And unfortunately, a lot of great ideas about teaching takes years for those ideas to propagate into the classrooms. And David and I both have done so much research on the use of novel technologies, on different levels of engagement, on how to support students from different backgrounds in science. So we felt that we should try and make this gap between where the studies have been done, when the studies have been done, and when they're implemented, shorter. So we are thinking about it all the time. Another thing is, we want to empower you. Look, after all, you're teaching children. We know that we cannot tell you what to do, but we can support you in your own inquiry, in your own process of discovery, what kind of science teacher you can become. Now, we're going to also try and discuss things that you're not afraid to disagree with each other, to argue, to propose new ideas. We have to have a community where our ideas about teaching science are scrutinized in a good way. Yeah, when we can challenge each other, think about it. And I think that's what this community is about. And finally, the philosophy was that if any of you in the future will tell us, you know what, I'm thinking of a PhD. We had a few students, David, you can say that it's true, yeah, that wanted to do a PhD at the end, continue in the future. This program is at the level that you will have it's your opportunity to start this road towards the PhD if you want it. So it's not less rigorous. I would say it's more engaging, flexible, but more engaging and as rigorous as any other master's program. I would say that's it.
Yeah. Just before I get on to introduce the faculty, I need to just mention also a very important benefit, and probably this has crossed your mind certainly, and that is eligibility for your Category 6 upgrade. That's applicable in BC, at least. For those people in other provinces, might be a little bit different, but absolutely this program qualifies you for your pay upgrade as teachers.
I know that it worked for Alberta people, in Quebec and Ontario. I do not remember about Manitoba, but you can check. Yeah.
Just a quick introduction of some of our faculty who have very deep ties with this program. Perhaps at the top of the pile here is our head of department, Professor Samson Nashin, who is a science educator himself. And he's worked in the area of alternate frameworks, and he's very much interested in cultural backgrounds and cultural roots in curriculum and students' learning. And so he has been a member of our department for the past 21 years and has been a very instrumental faculty member involved in the success of our program. As yours truly here, I come from a couple of different backgrounds. I'm a science educator. Actually, I'm a physicist by training back in the day. I've been a science teacher in the school system. I've worked in many different museum settings, and I also wear another hat. I'm very interested in museum education. In fact, I direct a Master of Museum Education degree program in the department, as well as the science education one, along with Marina.
So probably, and then Marina, I think you have the most experience with online cohorts. Am I right? Amongst all of us, you've been doing it for more than 10 years now.
15,
yeah, with Met. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's me. You can look at my profile if you wish. I was born in Ukraine. I I am also, it's interesting that both David and I, we have a background in physics, and Samson too. So 3 of us have a physics background. It happened like that. And I've been working with future physics and science and math teachers for many years now. I've been teaching science in middle school, in high school, and at university, and also mathematics undergraduate. So I've been with this program from its beginning.
And then we've got our colleague, Professor Cynthia Nichols, who is the director of the our math education program, which I referred to just a moment ago. And Cynthia works in the area of teaching in communities, in particular responsive mathematics education, connecting math, community and culture together. She's very much interested in First Nations issues and social justice through mathematics. So you may see Cynthia throughout the program at some point. And then
Cynthia was, just a sec, David. Cynthia was so inspired, but what we have done, that she, and David, I think you helped her a lot. She started a similar program in math education, online math education program with the same philosophy as ours. So we slowly grew from one program in museum education to science education, then to science and math education, and now science, math, and technology education.
And now social studies education as well.
That's true. And yeah.
And this is Professor Sandra Scott, who's the current deputy head of our department. She's very much interested in environmental education. So she's a naturalist by background and an environmentalist, and very much passionate about advocating learning experiences in the real natural world. So you will see Sandra throughout the program. And then we have another colleague. This is Lisa. Lisa has a joint appointment with the H.R. Macmillan Space Centre here in Vancouver. And she's also a museum educator, but she's also a science educator. And so she's been working with us for quite a number of years in the area of informal science education. So you'll see Lisa and maybe the little dog. I forget the little dog's name, but anyway, very little doggy
And
there.
David,
works with
and Lisa did her PhD under your supervision at UBC, correct?
10 years ago, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a little bit about our schedule, and we have other faculty who are involved in the program, which I haven't mentioned here, but there's quite a number of people who are involved. I just want to turn to the schedule here before I switch over to hear from our current students to give you their perspective. Just to let you know that the program is a lockstep program. So that means that we go together throughout the journey of the 2 years and 1 term. And there are a set of required courses, mandatory courses that we all do together at the same time. And also there are some electives, which you have a lot of flexibility in deciding which ones you'd like to do. So we go progressively, starting off with an introduction to curriculum issues and theories, 562. So that's the first course that you do together. And by the way, it's only 1 course per term, generally speaking. So that's what we aim to achieve. There'll be some instances where you'll maybe doing 2, depending on how you sequence your electives, but generally it's a manageable 1 course per term kind of progression. So the next course is teaching math and science through technology. I think that's your one, Marina, is it not?
I'm not sure if I'll be teaching next term. We'll see next year, but usually it's me. And even if it's not me, the philosophy of the course will be, I'll work together with the person who will teach. We'll see.
So what's special about that course from the science educator's perspective? You're utilizing very contemporary modern technologies in the classroom.
I think what's special is that the design, you and I, we've been thinking how to balance the theory and the practice in this program. We've been struggling with it, grappling with it and thinking about it. So the focus of this course is to show the first course, 562, as you said, is the big course on curriculum and theory. The second one is to look how what we know about how students learn, how can we facilitate that, learn science with modern technologies. And this course had been so applicable to a lot of teachers. Were so happy because we discussed simulations and interactive engagement techniques and how to use things, both when you teach face-to-face and online, because a lot of those technologies can be what we call flexible learning modality, can be used both at home, in the classroom, or in whatever online learning environment you have. So that's the goal.
Yeah. And then research methods in science teaching. This is a course really designed to help you get an understanding of how to read research about science education, but also how you do this research about science education in your own learning environments. So how do you go about designing a study to investigate whether certain techniques are effective? Or how do you go about designing a study which involves, for example, bringing teachers together to resolve common problems through an action research model? Or there's lots of different issues out there in how we investigate our own practices. And so this particular course gives you the systematic steps, the building blocks of how you design a research study in science education. And this one's taught by a very talented scholar who I haven't mentioned, by the name of Oksana Bartosh. So Oksana is a very, very skilled science educator researcher, and she facilitates this particular course. Next
you can
course
see how how the applicable theoretical courses and applied courses are interwoven. So it's all by design, not by chance.
Yes. And the next course is research and teaching and the learning of sciences. And so we're looking at the very contemporary, the most up-to-date issues that are confronting teaching and learning of sciences in the field. So because we're all research practitioners as well as instructors and teachers, we are constantly updating ourselves with the most contemporary literature and the most contemporary ideas about teaching and learning of sciences. So you'll be exposed to the research, the most up-to-date research. When I say the most up-to-date, I'm talking 2020, 2021 kinds of ideas. In fact, because Marina and I were the co-chairs of the STEM and International Conference just recently held at UBC, which had some 400 delegates from around the world there, we just published a proceedings, which I'm happy to give you. Maybe Marina, you can give the link in the chat.
I'll put the link here. Yes.
Yeah, of the most contemporary thinking about science education in the field of science education. So we're up to date, and we're constantly updating ourselves, and we're constantly engaging in the most contemporary ideas from the literature. So we're not exploring the stuff done in 1970. Certainly so much has changed in the field of science education. It's gone through so many iterations, and it builds on those foundations, of course. But where we are today and what we're thinking about science education is the focus of this particular course. So this is the first year, and you may, if you like, in that first year, choose to do an elective, and you've got the choice of doing a couple of electives in this program, which I'll talk about more specifically shortly. But essentially, the scheduling of your elective, which you choose to do, is entirely a function of your schedule. So you're deciding when you want to do it and how you want to do it, and for that matter, where you want to do it, because as I mentioned in a moment, you're not restricted to UBC. You can select from a wide range of university institutions for which we have partnerships to do your elective work in. So that's the first year.
David, I'm sorry, I have a question here for you.
Yeah.
Caitlin and Carissa are here. What if we, before we talk about the second year, what if we give them a chance to say a few words, and then we'll continue so they can go? What do you think?
Just give me 2 minutes, and I'll bring this to conclusion, and then we can invite Carissa and Katie.
Okay.
So year 2 of the program, which is where our current guests are today. They're looking at science learning in informal settings. So this is sort of breaking down the barriers of the classroom to look more globally at the nature of science education, where it's occurring and how it's occurring. And that's with Lisa McIntosh. Theory and research and environmental education, once again, looking beyond the bounds of the classroom with Sandra Scott and environmental issues. And then lastly, issues in teaching and learning in the sciences, which is another theory-based course to bring this all together, and together with a couple of elective specializations of your choosing and your scheduling. The last ones relate to your graduating paper. And so here, most people focus on doing a culminating piece of research or culminating piece of review of the literature or program development or something like that, which brings together all of the work that you've been doing so far in the program. And some people really thrive on this and they come up with great ideas. Sometimes they want to invest in a research project out of their Education 500 course. Other people have chosen to do a further elective C. And so whether you do this or not, it's not a mandatory component like the other courses, it's a voluntary component. We pair you up with a faculty member and you work with that faculty member to execute your graduating paper. Just one thing I'll mention before I pass to Carissa and Katie, who are our current students, is about the electives. I said a moment ago that you can do your electives in many different places. You can select them from UBC, and we've got a wide range of courses that you can do here. So, for example, I mentioned the Masters in Math Education program and Technology Education program, but there are other courses you can do in early childhood or whatever your discipline area is, you can select courses. But you're not restricted to this because you can go outside of UBC. And we have partnership agreements with University of Toronto, University of Alberta, just about all the major universities across the country. You can do these electives, and also you can do them without charge because, as Yvette will tell us in a moment, your program fee that you're paying for the degree is a by term program, not by credit. So all these courses that you do as electives outside of UBC are not charged. Okay? It's part of the reciprocal agreement. Outside, sometimes universities charge a very small administrative fee to do courses, but it's not tuition fee, it's an administrative fee. So with that being said, that sort of brings us to the conclusion of the program. It's a 30 credit point program. Most people do this in 2 years and 1 term. We have had students over the last 2 cohorts who have been very, very keen to get this done expeditiously, and they've done it in 2 years. So it is possible to do the program in 2 years. Some people have been doing that. And I guess the advantage, if you do it that way, is that you get your Category 6 upgrade sooner rather than later. That's one advantage. Secondly, I would say that those people who pursue the 590 project, this is an essential aspect of having something that will be a springboard into potentially doing a doctoral program down the track. So investing some energies into a graduating paper keeps the door open more what's the word, easily, if you can demonstrate some kind of little bit of research practice in your portfolio. And that again opens the door more easily to further graduate study down the track. So it's up to you. There's lots of flexibility in how you decide to execute your program in this regard. So let me turn this to
Caitlin will go first.
There we go. Yeah, let me turn this over.
Caitlin goes first, I think. That's what Carissa told me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. And Carissa, welcome.
So you
good to be here. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
you.
So we're going to hear from Katie first of all. Katie, can you just share with our group here, and we have some 30 people joining us today, which is a great number, a little bit about your perspective so far. So you're just over 1 year into the program now, and so you've done all of the first year courses. And tell us a bit about yourself. You're a busy practicing teacher, no doubt, and you've been doing this program. So share with everybody your experience and your perspective so far.
Sure. So I started this program last year. It would have been the start of my 6th year of teaching at that point. I teach in a rural school, so there's a small science department, but I was really hoping to get some more professional development opportunities, and they were really hard to find where I'm at, just because we're a smaller school, we're kind of in the country. So I was wanting to kind of find a program where I could learn some current research, some best practices in science, just to improve my own teaching practice, essentially. So I applied to the program, and when I first got in, I was a little bit nervous because I hadn't really done anything like academic in quite a few years at that point. So I wasn't quite sure what it would be like to be in a master's program, or what it would be like to get back into writing papers and actually doing research and stuff like that. But it's been really good. Bit of a learning curve to get through the first couple of classes, but the profs have been great for feedback and that kind of stuff. So it was not too bad getting back in the swing of things. Some of the stuff that I've really enjoyed so far with the program is being part of a cohort. So you're with the same students through all of the main courses. And I think a lot of us have taken electives with other classmates as well. So you might see your classmates in your electives as well. But it's nice to be in a group with lots of different people with different backgrounds, different years of teaching, different areas of teaching. Some of us have, I think some of our classmates have like specific outdoor classrooms they teach in. There's a STEM coordinator in the program. There's a few that run different science programs, or different science clubs. So there's a lot of experience that kind of comes out when you're working through the courses together. So you get to see a lot of different areas, and there's a lot of different inspiration that comes from your cohort as you go through your different classes together. And a lot of different ideas come out. So it's a really good way to collaborate and get some new and fresh ideas for if you're looking for that for when you're teaching. I also really enjoyed that you get quite a variety of your electives that you want to take. So there's a lot of variety there. There's a lot of courses if you're looking for, even as we're going through the mandatory ones, there's different areas that are really interesting that I hadn't really been exposed to before. So looking at right now, we're doing informal education, but we looked at curricular issues, research methods, and all the courses really seem to kind of build on each other, which is really nice. So you do see a lot of overlap in the ideas as you go through, and a lot of things come back up again as you go from one course to another. So that's been really good. It's been pretty comprehensive. We cover a lot of different stuff, but it all kind of builds on each other. And you also get to kind of make your own schedule. So whatever works for you. Basically, we go through, you have so much stuff due each week, but it's all, for the most part, asynchronous. So you can make your own schedule. So it's been pretty easy to get it into my own personal timetable to make things work. So that's been really good as well.
Thanks, Caitlin. And let me immediately turn to Carissa, and then maybe I can open it up for general questions to our current students. So thanks, Carissa.
Yeah, so just to build on what Caitlin has said, she gave a really good overview of the program. We did sort of talk in advance about what each of our talking points would be. One of the things that she said is how each of the courses that we do going through the program, they do really jigsaw together nicely. So you're going to take a little piece of this picture and a little piece of that picture, and it does really build over time. But I also, as David and Marina had mentioned, with the fact that they're trying to blend the theory and the practice, I also really like the way the courses have been structured for me to be able to bring experience from my own practice in, but also find ways to relate various materials from each of the courses back to my own practice. And Caitlin mentioned that as going through as a cohort, we are bouncing ideas off of each other. We're not all the same teachable areas. Some people are chemistry, some people are physics, some people are biology, some people are outdoor education, secondary, middle, but it's really neat to be able to share those resources and have this instant little miniature professional learning community. And even within that, you might find your tribe of a smaller group of people that are, say, the chemistry teachers or are the biology teachers, and you can start actually creating those little resources. And I can see that there's going to be people within our cohort that stay in touch for years now afterwards and continue to have that connection and have that professional ability to be able to continue to grow together. So that's really neat. I do like the cohort aspect. That's been really fun. As far as the courses, I think Caitlin sort of gave a good overview there. One thing that I would mention is I love that it's online. I know that there are some other institutions that are offering more of a face-to-face version of a similar program, but I love that I can manage my time and do this whenever I want to do this. So if it's that I'm going to book off some time on Thursday nights and Saturday mornings, and that's when I'm going to block that in my calendar, and that's what works for me. But then maybe my kid's got a soccer game on Saturday morning, so I need to juggle that around. I'm not bound to someone else's schedule. I get to slot it in wherever I need to. But on the topic of time management, you need to know your own learning style. You need to know what's going to work best for you. And I know that there's some of my colleagues in the program that if we have a suggested 3 or 4 or 5 papers to read for the week to be able to contribute to the discussion, some people will chip away at it, 1 paper each night, and that's how they learn best. They need to go slow. They need to read this little bit, digest it, walk away, come back. Other people, you want to chunk it in a big way. I like to chunk things in a big way, and I love that the program gives me the flexibility to be able to do that and just set my own schedule. I remember when I was sitting in this same position, considering taking the program and sitting at this same Q&A sort of meeting and wondering if this was really for me, if I could really do this. One of the graduate students that was speaking from that cohort said, you really need to work hard on maintaining your balance. We're all probably full-time teachers. Caitlin mentioned that she's teaching full-time. I'm also teaching full-time. I'm here to secondary school. I'm in Victoria, BC. This is my 17th year of teaching. So I'm a little bit past the halfway point. It's really neat to be able to see how things have evolved in education and be able to apply that to my own practice. And I could easily throw every spare minute I have at working on the courses, but this is also my no prep semester. So for those of you that maybe teach in BC, you know how when you're semestered at secondary, one semester has prep time and one doesn't. So I have to be rigorous about my time management right now. No, I need to schedule in some time for sleep. I need to schedule in some time for a walk. I need to schedule in some time to mark these however 60 labs that just got handed in. And I need to schedule in some time to work on the discussion and or paper for this course. And so you do need to limit yourself. You need to find balance. And I remember one of those first graduate students that was speaking in the inter-meeting said, this is not a 24/7 program. Even though it's available online 24/7, find what works for you, but then also build balance into your schedule. And by this point, hopefully you know what type of a learner you are. Do you need to nibble at it? Do you need to chunk it? Do you need to go for a run first? If so, do it. Find that balance and actually make sure that you're taking care of you. And even though it is only 1 course a semester, it's still going to keep you pretty busy. But if you have good time management, it's not going to be burdensome. And it was really good these last 2 years to feel so mentally active. I felt like I was using my brain again. And that's been a long time. You know, you're going through Science 9 for the 5th, 6th, 10th time, and you feel like your brain kind of starts to turn to mush. And so being able to use it again and think about how things have changed, question my own practice and say, hey, I've been doing this the same way for a while. Could I do something different? Or in a couple of cases, it's come up that the way we're doing it is good. So not broke, don't fix it, but let's look at these other things that maybe we could incorporate with it, these other things that we could layer over it. And I've seen that sneaking into my own practice. I caught myself actually just yesterday, David and Marina, look at this, talking about the nature of science. And I actually used that as the nature of science is that we blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh my gosh, that just came out from one of the courses and it just came right out of my mouth. So that's a neat piece of it too. One other piece, it is 1 course per semester. And if it's your no prep semester, if that's the kind of situation that you're in at your school, if you're secondary, just stick with the 1 course. But if you are looking at those electives, I know several people in our program nailed off both of the electives early and got them done this summer. And I remember, again, the grad students that were speaking when I was sitting in the do I take this program seat suggested that. And I'm really glad that I took their advice on that. I think, Caitlin, you said that you've also done both of your electives, but I think you did 1 each semester because the way school's structured in Manitoba, you always have some prep time. Is that right?
So, yeah, I did 1 right when we started, then again, but we got a little bit different for prep time.
And so what I did through the first year, I had no prep time in the fall. And then my prep team came up in the spring last year. So I took an elective as well as this, and I was able to see how I could manage that into my schedule. It was doable. And then come July, there was so many amazing courses that were available through all of the summer options that I took my second elective in July. And then I even attended the STEM conference that David and Marina were mentioning there, which I'm still very thankful for them helping us be able to attend that. That was great, because that was also a real eye-opener just to see from around the world global perspectives on science education. And that's really a big piece of it. You are going to be offered so many different ways, so many different paths that you could go down. And it's great. You can really chase whatever it is that you want to learn more about and think about ways to incorporate that into your practice. And guaranteed somebody else in the cohort is thinking the same way. And you've got a buddy that you can bounce things off of, bounce ideas off of. So it's just a really good feeling that way too. But taking care of those electives in the first year, as I'm looking down, I feel a lot less stressed about next summer. I feel a lot less stressed about what's going on right now. So I am glad that while I still had all that energy and oomph, that I got those done early, because it is a marathon. It's a series of small little legs of one big marathon. So you do have to have that endurance to get through the 2 years. And considering doing those electives earlier where you've got a little bit more energy, and you never know what comes up. If you see something that is interesting to you, grab it and do it. I did try through the Western Dean's Agreement to take a course at UVic. But unfortunately, right up until the day before, I was still waitlisted for that course. And it was a summer course that was really popular. So I had to make the decision to pull shoot on that one. I'd already scheduled another course that I was interested in. I could have taken 5 courses this summer. There was so many things I was interested in. But again, you have to limit yourself. But I did have a backup course scheduled at UBC. And so I took that one instead and had to pull out of that option at UVic just because it is what it is. I didn't make the wait list. So if you are going to be considering doing something through another institution, do try to get that Western Dean's Agreement application in quite early. It does take a while to process with the back and forth between the 2 institutions. Mine was UVic, so they run on island time. They're infinitely slow. So I'm not surprised that it lagged, and it was definitely not the UBC side that lagged. It was UVic that lagged, but you never know what the other institution is going to be like. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts on it. I'm really looking forward to this last chunk here. It is nice to be able to see everybody on Zoom. It would have felt weirder 3 or 4 years ago before we've been pushed into so much online these last couple of years. But I really do feel like I've gotten to know the people in the cohort, and it would be no different if I was to sit down with them at a pub on a Friday as it is to hop on the group chat and have a chit chat about whatever is going on in one of the courses that we're doing. So it's really a great feeling of having a group of people that you can work with, and you're all in the same place going through it together, but you can see yourself growing and you can see each other growing. So it's been a fantastic experience so far.
Well, thank you so much, Carissa and
Both of you, thank you.
Great insight.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic. I'm very conscious of the time. Yvette, how are you going for time? You okay to stick around if I just open it up for 1 or 2 questions and move on to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, look, I'm just going to, I am conscious of the time, but I don't want to let the opportunity pass to allow you all to ask either Caitlin or Carissa a question relating to their experiences. And at the end, after Yvette's had her say about admissions and applications, I'll open it up to general questions about the program. But just for the moment, is there someone got a burning question that they want to ask Caitlin or Carissa while we've got them captive here? You can just open up your mic and jump in.
I don't see questions, but I just wanted to mention very quickly, I'm glad that you both said that balance is important for all of us in academia especially. But one thing I wanted to mention that after nobody said you have to do 30 courses, and it can happen that you finish the program, you have the minimum number of courses, 30 credits, but then the last semester you feel there is a course that you always wanted to take for you. So what can happen, David? People can take more than 30 if they wish. They don't pay anymore, correct?
That's right.
So if it happens that you practically finish the program, but then the last term, you can submit your grade 6, how do you call it? Not grade 6.
Category.
Category, thank you. Category 6 and everything else, but you can still take another course for you if you want it for fun, not for the sake of a grade.
That's right.
I have a question.
Yes, Lisa.
For the graduate paper, does it take, like, let's say roughly you decide to do a 2-year program, does it take way more time after that 2-year, or is it compounded inside? Roughly how long would it take to finish the graduate paper?
You would finish it, well, potentially speaking, I mean, if you work very, very hard, you could do the graduating paper also within 2 years. The conventional path is to leave that capstone component to the last term of the program. It's called the 7th term, because that would be a winter term, so it would be September to December term, the last term of the program. And that gives you time and space to be able to do this. Whereas the rest of the program, you're so busy doing coursework-based issues, and now at the end, you've got the time for that. You don't necessarily have to do that way, but that's the way it's generally mapped out.
Thank you.
Questions for Caitlin or Carissa before I bid them adieu?
I think if Carissa generously said she could stay, but I don't see, could you please, I don't see people asking questions. Yeah. Oh, that's Carissa said. That's also the great part about the electives. The program is wide open as long as it's, yeah. And I agree. It is, if you decide that you want to take a 300 level course, yeah, we have it is allowed to take 6 credits of 300 or 400 level courses if David and I approve it, in terms of we'll look at the course and we say, yes, it fits within the vision of the program. And quite a lot of our students right now, one of the students is taking, my other student in another program is taking a course in actual astronomy, UBC astronomy course, because he's a science teacher, and it's 300 something level course in a master program. So it's also a possibility. Yeah, so it's a very widely open. Yeah.
Let's push on to the next section. If you guys can stick around, that would be wonderful. And if not, thank you so much for attending. Very much appreciated for coming by. Yvette, so I would like to introduce Yvette Kharoubeh, who is our senior program assistant for the Master of Education, Science Education. Yvette has had lots of experience in helping applicants like you all get through their applications and submit them correctly with all of the paperwork. And Yvette is going to walk us through the very important issues of admission and how you put together an application and all those kinds of things. So they're covering topics are admission requirements, application overview, fees. So over to you, Yvette.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yvette, and I'm going to be covering the admission requirements for this program. So what we're looking for is a 4-year undergraduate degree in education and or science or equivalent. We're looking for a GPA of a B+, which is 76% at UBC in all of your senior level courses, which is 300 level and above. Or you may be in the B or B- range, 68 to 75% at UBC, with a 4-year undergraduate degree plus B.Ed. And if you do not meet those 2 requirements, then your application is considered to be a special case, in which case, if the admissions committee feels you're a good candidate for the program, then they will recommend you to the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies for admission to the program. I ask that you order 2 official sealed transcripts from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended, with the exception of UBC, because I have access to records from UBC. And the reason why I ask you to order 2 is because we want you to open one, upload the front and back pages to your application in a single file as a PDF. And the other one you would keep sealed, so that if you are admitted to the program, then you would be forwarding the sealed transcript to the Faculty of Graduate Studies. So if you're an applicant that has participated in an exchange program or has received transfer of credit in your undergraduate degree, we must see transcripts from those institutions as well. And please ensure that your transcripts state that you have graduated. Next, please. So we're looking for the back page of your transcript as well, and I use the transcript key to calculate your GPA. So it's very important that you provide that for each post-secondary school that you have attended. Next, please. We're also looking for a 2-page statement of intent to outline your reasons for enrolling in this program and what it is that you hope to achieve after you complete it. David or Marina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, my only thing is for some of our applicants, if they finished many years ago, you know, they were worried, oh, cannot find my professor. We have to make sure you belong to the program. So please find a person who can attest to your academic and professional accomplishments. And if you don't know, you can email us and we can discuss together whose recommendation might be fitting. David, do you have another comment?
Yeah, so those letters of references, it's very important that they speak to your capacities for doing graduate work. That's the key criteria here. We all know that you're wonderful people and so forth, but the issue is capacity to do graduate work. And so that can be reflected in your innovative pedagogical practice that someone can speak to, your capacities for implementing new and wonderful things, your innovativeness and all the things that you do as a teacher. Someone who can speak to your capacities is the very important thing that they need to do. And ideally, you should look for academic references, but as Marina said, sometimes it's very hard to find these ancient professors that you had back in the day, and they may not remember you. Although Marina and I remember all of our students, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yes. So they may not have a good memory of you, or they may not be able to speak to your contemporary capacities. So professional references like your principal or your head of department, these kinds of things.
Or the district, David.
District,
sometimes
yes.
People do workshops, are active in the community, associations of science teachers or physics teachers, people who can attest to your abilities or skills or potential.
Right. Yes, and your 2-page statement of intent, that's just to really give us an indication about your seriousness for the program. So we get a lot of applications. Sometimes the applications are frivolous. That is to say, people are sending out 20 applications to universities just because they want to come to UBC or just to get into any graduate program. We're looking to sort of get the people who really want to be here and have a passion for this program. So that's what that 2-page statement of intent is about. Last thing is about your CV. This is not a job application CV, it's a academic CV. So you shouldn't think about these as being limited to 2 pages. You should, in fact, academic CVs have no length requirements, so they can be as long as it faithfully represents what you've been doing academically, professionally, and so forth. So don't skimp is my advice. So put as much detail as you can about your professional life, including your volunteer life also, that relates to education, in particular science education.
I will say that the most important part, think of it backwards. Think David and I and our team will be looking at how well you can fit into our cohort, because a student who doesn't fit, it's not good for anybody. You can be a fantastic person, but for another cohort. So please give us evidence that will show that you can be academically successful, that you have interest in science, that you have the background experience, and that this program is for you. So that's basically what we're looking for.
I will be taking questions at the end, by the way. I see there is one in the chat area. I will be addressing that shortly. So again, David and Marina have addressed the references section. We're looking for 1 academic reference and 2 professional references. And the professional references should be from people who have supervised you. So the way it works is you will enter your referee's information on your application. Once you submit it, an e-reference goes out to them. They could use the form provided or upload their own letter, and instructions are provided to them. Now, as well, this is the easiest way to get e-references submitted to your application. But if you're dealing with a retired professor, let's say, and they want to, they can mail it in to us, provided they sign the seal on the flap of the envelope. As well, if your application ends up being a special case rationale, or special case rather, we really need your referees to speak to your ability to do graduate work. And we don't accept any references by email or by phone. Next. So the English language requirement, this applies to applicants from universities outside of Canada in which English is not the primary language of instruction. And so then you must provide results of an English language proficiency examination, and the test must have been taken within the last 2 years. If it applies to you, please contact me. Acknowledgement of part-time status form is something else you will have to fill out. You will not be able to fill it out before submitting your application. Once you submit your application, if you are new to UBC, you will be assigned a student ID number, and that's the number that you will put on the form. If you have an existing UBC ID, you would use the UBC ID you've had previously. So then, can you give me 1 second?
So it should be students in the SCED3 program, not MED7. Everything else there is correct. Yeah, so this basically means, just while Yvette's dealing with something there, it means that there's no grant or scholarships available in this program through UBC because it's a part-time professional program. So very often some people say, oh, can I get a scholarship along with this? And it's not available, this kind of program.
Sorry about that. I had someone at the door. The students, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Things like scholarships, grants, bursaries, loans, and financial aid is not available to part-time students. So we ask that you fill out this form acknowledging that you know this, and we need you to sign it, and also initial the statements at the end of the on the form itself. Next, please. So to apply to the program, you would go to grad.ubc.ca/apply/online. You would use your UBC student ID. If you have an existing one, please use that. You would search, do a program search, SCE3, or Master of Education and Science Education Professional Cohort, which starts September 2022. You upload all your supporting documents. You can re-enter your application once you've submitted it. The deadline to apply is March 20th, 2022. If you're a domestic applicant, which means Canadian citizen or permanent resident, it's $110. If you're an international applicant, it's $168.25 Canadian. Next, please. The domestic tuition fee is currently at $22.50 and change plus student fees. So then you're looking at, just for the tuition currently, is $15,752 and change plus student fees. For your international tuition fee installment, it's currently $23.85 and change Canadian plus student fees. And your international program tuition cost is currently $16,697 and change plus student fees. So student fees currently for this term were $770. If It tends to vary from term to term, usually less as you go forward, and it's payable in 7 installments. And there are 3 payments per year, September to December, the January to April, and then May through to August. And it's charged as a whole program fee, not a per credit fee. And the university reserves the right to increase the fees every year. Next. Student fees are charged in addition to your tuition fee, as I mentioned, and if you qualify, you can opt out of a couple of student fees. One is called the health and dental if you have coverage, and the UPass fee if you live outside of the Vancouver metro area. Next.
Yeah, so just to clarify that, so that line, third line down, student fees were $770. For most of you, you've probably got health coverage, which makes that number considerably less. And probably for quite a number of you who are outside the Lower Mainland, you don't pay the UPass, that brings it down even more. So that student fee that Yvette's talking about there is the worst case scenario. It has the potential to become a bit less than that once you take out the things you can opt out of.
Now for questions.
Yeah, and so we're at the Q&A session now. Thank you so much, Yvette, for that very comprehensive overview there. I see there's a question in the chat, which I will direct, deal with
I think
directly.
Stephen asked the question. I have already sent all of my other university records to BC when I transferred there for my BEd. So Stephen was my student, all the documents were here. Would those records still be on file? And if so, would I still need to send those academic records? Yvette, what is the answer, please?
You'd still have to send the academic record or order one and upload it to your application. Every department is different, so we don't have access to getting transcripts from other departments at UBC.
So even teacher education, they don't share? Because to be a BEd student, Stephen had to send all the documents to our teacher education office.
Sometimes they have them. I would have to check. It's a case by case.
Okay. So Stephen, maybe we'll check, we'll ask Yvette to check with the teacher education office, okay? Okay, that's one. And what are other questions? Maybe we're missing something. I think Carissa, Caitlin, you answered a lot of questions. Any other questions that we missed?
And you can open up your microphone too, if you wish.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one question about UBC transcripts. You said that we don't need 2 copies. Do we need to order 1 copy of a UBC transcript?
No, if
Yvette?
you attended, say, Simon Fraser University.
Oops.
Sorry, Yvette, we lost you
Yvette,
there.
we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. So you said that we didn't need to order 2 copies of a UBC transcript.
No, we don't need any UBC transcripts because I have access to your records.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to clarify.
So for all former UBC students, you can access their records. Stephen's case, he sent his documents to UBC. Oh, yeah, so I understand. So Stephen sent his records to UBC to be admitted into teacher education. That's a different situation. I get it. Thank you, Yvette. Other question, please. Or any other questions? Yeah. Other questions? Okay, I have the same question as Stephen. Okay, Allison, I hope we answered your question.
Yeah, I just need to contact the teacher's education office because
Yeah.
I did my first year of my bachelor's of science at Queen's University, but when I transferred to UBC, I still need to resend the Queen's transcript, even though I was a UBC student for the next 4 years. Is that that was the case? That was the...
No, I think if you were a UBC student and you graduated from UBC, Yvette can access all your records.
So even that first year that I transferred from Queen's?
Because if UBC counted you as a student, they figured out what to do. Yvette, am I correct?
So I just want to be clear about this. You had transcripts that you used or sent to another department?
Yeah, so I
Was it
finished my
TEO?
first
Was
year-
it teacher education?
No, Yvette. The thing is, as far as I understand, that Allison did her first year of science studies at Queen's, correct?
yeah.
And then she moved to UBC. So she graduated
Oh.
with a degree in science from UBC. Allison, am I correct?
Yep, and then I did the teacher's education program at UBC as well.
As well. So as
So
soon
then
as
we
you
need
graduate,
the Queen's University transcript.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, other questions?
And Sarah is asking here, can you ensure the program is qualifying in other provinces in Canada? Would you send an email confirming if it's acceptable in Quebec? When you say acceptable, Sarah, what do you mean, like for pay increase? Is that what you're asking?
No, qualifying as in I could actually teach right now without having a paper that says I can teach in Quebec. I'm not able to teach in elementary, high school, or any other institution.
No, one
Right, so
second,
this master's degree will not give you teacher certification. So that's not what it's credentialed for. So I don't think any province in Canada would accept a master's degree alone in science education to qualify you to teach. So does that answer your question? For that, you'd need a bachelor's degree in education, and then the relevant certifying authority in the province
Yeah,
would
that's
recognize
important.
that.
In Canada, master's is not a certification program. Yeah, it's an academic program. After you've been a teacher, you complete your master's. Denise had a question.
Thanks, Marina. I actually had a question, and I've sort of been in touch with Yvette over this, and I'm not really clear on how to sort of move forward with my application. I was a UBC student in the 90s, and now it's, 20 plus years later, and I've changed my name since then, and I want to apply as a student with my current name, but I have no idea how to do that, given that UBC still thinks of me as my former name. Does that make sense? And Yvette, you and I sort of over this, and I'm still confused as to every time I try to change my name, it tells me it's not allowed to do that in this system.
Okay.
We have this, David, do you remember? We had it with Laura in the first cohort. Oh, Carissa, is it you? You also.
I had no problem with it because I changed it as I was starting my application process, but I graduated from UBC many years ago with my undergrad, my BSc, and it was under my maiden name, and I've since married, and I just changed it at the beginning of the process. I think I'd already submitted some of my documents, and it was just an internal change that happened in the background, and I had to provide my legal documents, right, marriage certificate, and then they just changed it. So I had to pick that was going to be my preferred name. I couldn't go by both names. And they said your original transcripts will still always be issued in your maiden name, but we recognize that this is you now. It was not an onerous process, not nearly as onerous as changing my name everywhere else when I first got married. So easy in that sense.
Okay, so I think maybe the problem is I'm trying to change it at the beginning of the application, but it needs to be changed more as I go through. Is that maybe accurate?
No, the best way is to keep it as is, and then if you're admitted to the program, change your name. But meanwhile, on the application, you could upload your name change document, whether it's a marriage certificate or whatever it is, and leave it the way it is, because then the system gets confused and your application records from UBC will not populate your appliation. So it's best to keep
I'm
it under your
confused, Yvette. I do not understand. So my maiden name is Bolotin, my husband's name is Milner. So if I switched my name to Milner, should I apply as Marina Milner?
Yes, whatever name you were under when you started at UBC, and that's under your student ID number, keep it as is.
So when I'm applying, I'm using the old name, even though I'm not
Yes,
using it
but
anymore?
you can upload the name change document to your application. And once you're admitted, then you can go and make a formal change through enrollment services.
Oh, got it. So I apply as Marina Bolotin, and then when I'm in the program, I say, oh, by the way, I got married. Here's my document. Please change my name to Marina Milner, correct?
Yes, but I can't
Okay.
change I can't do the name change. It's something that the student is going to have to initiate with enrollment services.
Is it how you did it, Carissa?
Yeah, it's I was just actually looking at the UBC site. It's similar. It did come with a big warning of this is not going to change your name on your diploma. You have to order a new one. But the most important part was that my student number was still the same. So if I still had a UBC student number, when I started my application, I had to use that UBC student number in order to make sure that all of the transcripts and documents populated across. And that seemed to override whatever the first or last name actually was. But I do, and maybe the rules have changed in the last few years, but I do remember that because all of my incoming documents, including my teacher certification and everything, were going to be under my married name, I did actually change my name with UBC before I had started the process, because then all of the transcripts that I was going to get if I needed to use transcripts for anything else would have my updated name on them too.
Ah, so you can even change your UBC name before applying. Oh, I
I'm
see.
seeing Tessa has her hand up. Tessa, you have a question?
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a quick question going back to the graduating paper discussion. So the reason why I'm looking at the UBC program is because I'm actually from the East Coast. I'm from New Brunswick. And what's really, really attractive to me is the online portion. However, I really feel strongly that I do want to do type of thesis-based graduating paper type of thing at the end. If that's the case, should I be getting in contact with potential supervisors now? Like if I want to chat with Dr. Scott about her environmental work or anything like that, is that something I should be looking into now or more so closer to maybe completing that graduating paper?
I would say you're welcome to communicate with any of our faculty members that we've mentioned. If you've got a passion, for instance, in environmental education and you want to strike up a conversation with Dr. Scott, by all means. Is it necessary for the success of your application? No. So you don't need to speak to anyone at this stage because that is, almost 2 years away in terms of the timeline here. You just sort of, plug along, and when it gets closer to the point where, okay, now we're starting to talk about 590s, then you can sort of raise that issue. It doesn't hurt, I don't think, if as I said, I suspect you have a passion about environmental ed to make yourself known to faculty, but it's not necessary for the success of your application.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I just think go step by step. First, get accepted and then contact, because it makes more sense.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions?
No?
There are no silly questions, by the way. I always say that. So any questions about admissions or the experience?
Oh, Sarah has, David. Sarah has a question.
Yep. Sarah.
Sorry, I know you kind of touched on it already, but actually the reason I decided to come to this presentation, I graduated almost 17 years ago from my last university experience. So could you just reiterate about what do you do if you don't think you can find a professor to give you references?
Yes, that's not such an uncommon question, Sarah. So it is very hard to find these old professors because they're retired. And admittedly, if I had a student from 2002 come knocking at my door, probably would have to scratch my head a little bit to be able to recall them and then write a convincing reference about it. So, it's almost impossible, and it probably doesn't hold a lot of currency to get a reference from someone who knew you 17 years ago and hasn't had any contact with you since. So in these instances, as I said before, getting somebody who knows what you're doing in the field and can speak to your capacities for graduate work is the key here. So it could be your principal, it could be your head of department, it could be someone in the school district who knows what you've been doing and can speak to that. The kinds of references that don't work very well are your teacher colleagues. So your buddy in the staff room that is at the same level of you probably doesn't work so well. It's got to be someone one level up from you who can speak to you in terms of your professional practice and your capacities for graduate work.
But we as professors often work with teachers all the time. So if you work with a professor, if you know somebody you worked with who knows you more closely, you can ask this person. Does it answer your question, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
Good, excellent. Other questions, please. And as we mentioned, it's all going to be online. So if you've forgotten something or don't remember what we discussed, you can look up. And if it's not enough, email us, David and myself.
I saw in the chat that one of the Sarahs, I don't know if Sarah McHale is still here, maybe she's gone. Maybe she's gone. She had asked, does it matter if I'm not teaching next year if I'm enrolled in the program? And I was going to send her a private message, but the chat was disabled for a little bit there. I don't know why you would be away from teaching. I mean, my mind goes to, are you going to be on maternity leave? In BC, we have the category 5+, which is to take a certain number of courses, but it didn't have to be a full program. And I had done that when I was on maternity leave with my first kid. And I found it to be a really rewarding experience to continue using my brain when all I was doing all day was gooing at a little thing that couldn't talk back at me and changing diapers. So if you were going to be away for some reason that, like that from teaching next year, I could still see keeping your brain active would be maybe really enjoyable. If she's not here, I don't know how else to speak to that, but I don't think David and Marina would not being actively teaching or being on leave for a year impact the ability to be in the program.
We had students who gave birth during the program.
Yeah, we've had a number of people in our cohort.
Caused them, a number of students, yeah. I guess a
number of people have posted baby pictures this year. And I think actually one of the people in our cohort is on their deferred salary year, this year. So where you can do the save 20% of your salary every year. So for 4 years, you get paid 80%. And then on the 5th year, you get those 20% from each year paid out as 80%. And I believe he's actually traveling with his family right now.
Oh, wow.
Because this is the deferred year. So, but still enjoying doing the courses. And it does free up a little bit more time for him to be able to work on the courses, and certainly offers a different perspective if your brain is maybe relaxed and not worried about report cards and marking.
Yeah, we're not checking who teaches and how much you teach. It's not. I mean, when you teach, you can implement what we discuss, right away, but it's not a requirement. Any other questions? No?
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Is there any way to get does this course offer the opportunity to have the 5+ part way through the course? Or is it just going to be completely the 6 at the very end?
Stephen, I do not understand what you mean. Could you explain to me, please?
Sure. So, there's another university who I won't mention, but they have, the way their course is set up is after year 1, you're already qualified for the 5+. The next teacher status up from 5 is 5+ before 6. So you can get the 5+ and the little pay raise at the end of the first year, and then at the end of the second year, that's when you go up to 6, the BC pay scale 6. Is that a possibility for the UBC program?
Oh, Carissa,
go ahead.
Are you in BC?
Yes.
No. And it's because TQS here in BC, a bunch of us got caught off guard because that was a change that just happened here in BC a couple of years ago. Since I did my 5+, it used to be that to get your 5+, you needed 15 credits. But now they're making it that to get your 5+, you need 30 credits. They just don't have to be tied to a specific program. And I know there are some institutions out there that instead of offering the typical 3-credit course, they're outside of BC, but they're offering a 6-credit course. And so to do your halfway, you're already, after 5 courses, you're already at the 30 credits, so you can qualify for the 5+. But a number of our people just found that out in our cohort this year, that you can no longer get the 5+ halfway through because it requires 30 credits, whether that's the whole program or whether your entire program of 10 courses, because they're 6 credit courses, is 60 credits. That's how some institutions are currently massaging it, so you can get the 5+ halfway through, which is unfortunate.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Carissa. You helped us. I don't see realistically how a person can do honestly 30 credits in 1 year plus teaching. If it's honest, if you honestly have academic courses.
But what the institution who shall remain unnamed, we'll call them Voldemort. What Voldemort is doing right now is offering, it's still only 5 courses, but right now, so for UBC, when I finish my course, I get 3 credits towards my program. That institution, Voldemort, has just made it so that each of their courses is worth 6 credits. So you're still only doing 5 courses over the course of a year. It still takes you 2 years to do your 10 courses, but because it's not in the province of BC, when you transfer that back to BC, your transcript reads 5 times 6 equals 30 credits. And all TQS looks at is they look at it and they see 30 credits and they give you the 5+ bump. So you're still only 1 year in and you've still only done 5 courses, but just the math works out. They've massaged the numbers so that the math
They just changed,
faster.
they made it fake that the course is 6, I see.
Yeah.
So David, we should call our courses 6 credits. Just why not 30 for 1 course? You can then apply immediately.
Well, and what's going on here in BC, I mean, UVic has always been a little bit different from UBC in that UVic calls their courses 1.5 credits per course. And then, did you not know that? UVic calls their courses 1.5 credits for a course. And when you do an application or transcript change back and forth between UBC, they have to apply an internal factor and UBC looks at it and goes, oh yeah, that really means 3 credits. It's just UVic. They're on island numbers. And they sort it out. So it's not unusual to see numbers coming through like that. And I think that's why some institutions are starting to massage their numbers that way now.
But our calculation is real. When I teach a 3 credit course, that means that I am with the students for 3 hours every week. That's what
yes, the UBC calculations make sense.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that what they do. Yeah. Thank you, Carissa. Other questions? No?
Well, we're at 5:30 there, folks.
Vancouver time, we are at 7:30, 8:30, whatever. New Brunswick time, it's
yes.
class 4.
So probably almost certainly there will be more questions that will come up as you think through this and as you commence your applications. By the way, you can commence your applications now. You can open up the portal and start filling parts out, save it. You only pay the tuition application fee once you press submit, and that can be any time before March the 20th. So I would encourage you to begin the process now. Have a look at the fields, have a look at the issues that it's looking for, have a look for the documents that it's wanting. And once the application is commenced, you can go back to it any number of times until you press the submit button, and then it asks you to put your credit card details in for the application fee. Is that correct, Yvette?
Yeah, they can do that. I also wanted to mention, please do not ask your professors or whoever you want to ask for a letter of support, emailing them 8 p.m. today and asking, by the way, tomorrow morning it has to be submitted. I think it's more respectful if you email at least a week in advance. And if you add your CV or a few points to refresh their memory, if they haven't met you in a while, do it. I hope you can say, I hope you can mention in your reference that I've done this and that, and help people write you a strong letter.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and special thanks to Yvette, to Caitlin, and to Carissa for coming in today. Looking forward to receiving your applications, and as you have questions going along, don't hesitate to email Yvette. Yvette is the person dealing with admissions issues. Marina and I deal with academic issues. So Yvette is probably the person who can help you most at this point in time. But as I said, any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. So thank you one and all for joining us. Looking forward to
thank you, everybody.
Seeing your applications, and all the best for the rest of the term.
All the very best to all of you. And thank you once again, Carissa and Caitlin. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Enjoy your evening,
much.
whatever is left of it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, and
Bye.
good night for some of you. Bye.